Are the Ghastly Ones real? There is no debating the historical evidence that these figures recur over time and throughout many different cultures around the world. But that doesn't mean the Ghastly Ones are literal dream demons or creatures who live in the dreamscape to feed on our fears. They might just be the manifestation, how we visualize the universal fears shared by all of humanity. Maybe. Regardless, these nightmare people, these ghastly ones, they touch a lot of lives. They scare people, but they also infect people with doubt and fear, self-loathing, anxiety, and even darker feelings. They are the resident evil of the world, haunting our collective unconscious. And that alone, to some degree, makes them real. The following is a collection of episode outtakes, unused material and interviews, and some spoken word versions of documents that I have found in my research. This is not a story. This is a look inside people's nightmares from their own mouths. It's to give you an idea of how far the Ghastly Ones reach. What it all means is up for you to decide. This is Ghastly Nightmares. Drinking whiskey in the kitchen and telling scary stories around the fire. Music, monsters, and mayhem, killers, cannibals, and cults, fearful fiction and furious fact, tall tales, and terrible truths. This is a scary home companion.
In a dream, I can feel the plants growing inside of my chest. It doesn't hurt. It feels natural. Like roots growing into soil. It doesn't hurt the soil, right? The soil feeds the roots and helps the plants to grow. Vines start reaching up my throat. But I can still breathe. Because now I'm breathing through the vines. The prettiest flowers come out through my mouth. And then my eyes. And in my ears. My whole head is ringed with purple and red blossoms. And I can see through them. I can hear through them. The plant isn't eating me. It's helping me become something better. Something that can live forever. The doctors say I'm just trying to mentally deal with the cancer. To try and turn it into an escapist fantasy. But the dream feels so real every time. Besides, they still don't know for sure that it is lung cancer. They say it came from the red mold. And they don't know exactly what the hell it is.
The following is an excerpt from Lucid Dreaming, The Desert Sessions, a collection of essays and first-hand accounts published by Professor Andre Argento in 1998. This comes from Chapter 23, The Organ Orchards. From a distance, in the dark, they looked like trees. Up closer, I could see the sickening truth. The thick, meaty tree trunks were in fact stacked human torsos. Limbs hacked off, stitched together crudely. They had long ago merged and healed together with scab and scar, and now the forest was made of crooked, doughy trees with pale flesh for bark, twisted bones for branches, and thin membranes of dried skin for leaves. The trees sighed. They wept stomach acid tears and oozed black-green sap through their pores. There was a moss of fine, silken human hair that grew only out of one side of each tree trunk. And then the trees gave way to something else, and I laid eyes upon what could only be the organ orchards. This forest of body horror was just scraps, the outliers. Here, in this neatly organized little patch of hell's farmland, there grew new forms of life. They looked organic, made from the same grotesque skin and bone as the trees, but these had not been fashioned by hand. They had not been created. They had been grown from this poisonous soil. The organ orchards were the pulsing flesh and dripping blood of the end of days, and every inch of it was alive. The chaos of the outlying forest was replaced by meticulously plotted and planted stands of smaller things, unholy hybrids of flora and fauna. I saw a freshly turned patch of dark earth where human hearts were about to be harvested. They were 1 foot apart, still half covered with damp, reddish dirt. Each was connected to the next by long, thin, arterial vines. All the hearts beat at their own rhythm, some hummingbird fast, some calm and slow. 48 hearts in all. A tidy rectangle, not much different from a pumpkin patch. I saw razor-crisp lines of small fruit trees that led the way down the clearing. Each row of saplings bore fruit of a different color, and such a variety of fruits. From dark, ugly red to mottled black to glowing green to angry, bruised purple to lividity blue. And they were so vivid, they were so sharp they hurt my eyes to look at them for too long. There was one massive tree that overhung the rest, over all the rows. It appeared at first to be a mighty apple tree, until I noticed that the tender pink apples were contracting and relaxing and expanding in a slow, rhythmic pace. The tree was host to several hundred lungs of all shapes and sizes, and unlike the harvest of hearts, the lungs all moved in perfect concert. In unison, the tree breathed in and out. Around the base of the tree were little planters made of rib cages. I don't know if they were human. They were definitely made of bone, filled with oozing black mud and a green goo that slithered through that mud. And in the center of all this magnificence, like a calm little island of industrious work, was the profane botanist. He was digging a shallow trench, which was just long enough for me to lay down in. And as much as I tried to stop myself, I simply couldn't help it. I laid in this trench in the garden as the profane botanist started to fill me with seeds. And I swear to you, right now, I can still feel those seeds under my skin.
I can definitely confirm that I've had some upsetting dreams. I would also like to qualify that by saying that they only started when I was working for this show. Are the Ghastly Ones real? I still don't know. But they never got into my head until after I started hearing about them, and that says a lot. Maybe they're like a viral idea. Whether or not they exist, it doesn't matter. If you think that they might exist, then they do. Then they live rent-free in your head. Okay, but if we're doing this, let's do this. I'll tell you a dream I've been having. Not every night, but every once in a while, I get the same dream. It's about the hand collector. It started right after I interviewed the girl, Willow Ochoa. Her father was a cop who investigated the hand collector attacks. A year later, he severed her left hand. She was 6 years old at the time. He said it was to protect her from the hand collector coming after her, and it upset me at the time, so it's not any sort of supernatural mystery why I started having hand collector nightmares, is it? God, he was just like Willow described him, just like it. And I've already talked about what happened when I was a kid. The accident with my mom. But I swear to you, these dreams are just as vivid as that memory. It's like I can feel the skin of those dead hands crawling all over me. Dry, scaly almost, like fine-grained sandpaper. It feels so real, so vivid. After a few times, it made me question if it was real or a memory.
A fucking message? Hey, asshole. Well, first of all, it's not a dream. I don't see him in a dream. Fuck, I'm not fucking crazy. So, fuck you for making me seem crazy on your stupid fucking show. It isn't fucking bath salts either. DMT, listen, DMT isn't like that. It isn't a drug. It just opens you up. It opens you up to see what's really out there. And then you want to open other people up too.
I avoid dreaming at all costs, and have done so pretty much my entire professional career. You see, calling out to the ghastly ones is dangerous, even if only done for research. When you look for them, they look for you, and not in the way that you would expect. Never in the way that you would expect, actually. Since my brother disappeared and I took over his work, I've maintained a steady consumption of cannabis. It helps very much with the dreams, dulling them. And without the dreams, they're powerless. They haunt me still, but they're too lost in the fog for me to see them.
The butterfly woman isn't an artist. That's dumb. Don't be dumb. She's a patron. Do you know the difference? The patron worships the artist, and because the artist inspires them, they try to inspire the artist. Get it? I don't see her all the time, but when I do see her, I know to pay attention because it means something. She knows that I am a great artist. I can do great things. That's why I try to give people wings sometimes. It's hard though. I haven't gotten it quite right. Her wings are made of skin, the skin of her back peeled up and stretched so thin. It's like gossamer, glittering green. The best I've done so far was a blood eagle, but it wasn't pretty, just gross. It's funny, the lungs themselves don't smell bad, but the breath inside them stinks. Ugh.
The following is an excerpt from Lucid Dreaming, The Desert Sessions, a collection of essays and first-hand accounts published by Professor Andre Argento in 1998. This is from Chapter 15, Cannibal Island. It was the most vivid dream I've had yet. I mean, I can still see it so clearly. Not like a dream, like a memory. I was there. I went to this place. It was very similar to the dreams that I've been experiencing. At first, as you know, I've been seeing the island, the end of days. And I'm on the beach there. That rough sand under my feet, the black sludge water lapping at me. The ghastly ones start to emerge from the darkness. They're coming for me. But this is where it changes. It all starts to shred right in front of me, vibrating at two different frequencies at once and splitting apart. And now I see two islands overlaid, the end of days and another, one covered in snow, surrounded by ice, under a full moon. I made a choice, and I took a step, just one step. And then I was on this other island. I think it was supposed to be Nazino Island, the cannibal island that you told us about. I can hear the ghastly ones. Maybe they crossed over with me, or I followed them here. But there are screams. I see blood in the snow. Fresh bodies still steaming. I keep walking. I go straight ahead towards the heart of the island. We never get to see enough in our dreams, and I wanted to see it all. Then I start to see the nightmare people. The ghastly ones are here, all around me, torturing people, killing them, mutilating them in horrific ways that I'd never imagined. The surgeon was there, the woman with butterfly wings, Tonton Makut, the butchers, Festering John, the profane botanist was tending the soil, planting seeds, and the skin weaver was stitching together severed parts into something truly unspeakable. And I mean that. I selected that word so carefully. This is my third year in the lucid dreaming program, and never, ever have I not been able to describe something that I saw. But what she made, I can't. It's like my mind won't let me see it to protect me. There's a long strip in the middle of the air that stands out against the rest. It's darker, like a cut in the wind, an open gash that leads somewhere else. The edges of this cut were frayed, but I could see the little threads were all alive, and they were wriggling together and trying to knit the cut closed. As it started to get smaller, the ghastly ones started to go back through the breach, until the skin weaver and this thing that she made are the last ones left. But then I saw one more. There's a girl. And she doesn't look like she's old enough to be pregnant, but she is very, very pregnant. The skin weaver drags this girl by the hair through the breach to the other side. I ran after her. I actually made it through before it closed. And I found myself right back on the beach at the end of days. I could see that pregnant girl in front of me. She was running away, crying her eyes out. She had a veil on, so I couldn't see her face, but I knew it was her, so I started running as fast as I could to try and catch her. And that's when I realized that they were feeding on me. They knew I've been coming to watch them, and this time they were waiting. So I don't think I can ever go back. Next time they might not let me leave.
Bro, so it's like the hottest sex dream ever. I mean, like, freaking ever. I don't have them often, but this wasn't like anything I'd had before. So this woman's all fucking curves, you know what I mean? Like, big ass, like, nice, big, fucking juicy titties, like, wearing one of those flimsy little black lace things. What do you call them? It's like a baby doll. It's called baby doll. Okay, so she's dancing. I'm tied down to this old bed, right? But I don't even care. Cause like I'm fucking hypnotized by the striptease. Like just mind meld, dude. She kicks off those stiletto heels, climbs up on the bed. She's standing right over me, just like grinding. And she takes off that little baby doll, fully naked, dude, right there over me, just filling up my whole world. Feel like I'm gonna fucking explode, just like all up in my pants, just like game over. Never have I wanted a woman more before, like just hands down. So she keeps stripping, and she turns around, and I see these laces running down her back. See, because she isn't really naked yet, like not quite. The big girl, the outside of her, it's just like part of the costume. She starts stripping out of the next layer, like literally pulling off her skin, like crawling out from the inside of this other body. And the craziest part is, somehow it made me just like more hornier, dude. Like I was just like fucking rock solid. It made me think about like how sexy the inside parts are, and you don't think about it, but it's like that's where you're trying to be. up in them guts.
I know it doesn't make any sense, but I've seen it play out so many times, it's like a movie I've memorized. I'm on a bus, one of those third world type of buses with no windows, you know? It's mostly empty, just me and the man sitting next to me, the no-faced man. And there's a woman right in front of me, aggressively in front of me. The whole bus is open and she sits here, okay? She turns around and it's my mom. Sometimes. Sometimes it's my mom and she says, "How are you supposed to know?" Other times it just looks like my mom, but it's not her. Some other woman is wearing her face like a mask. I can tell by the way the corners of her mouth crinkle up when she talks. And in these dreams, she says, "How could you not have known?" The thing is, when I wake up, I never remember which one of the two dreams it was.
I mean, I don't dream. I mean, not like they say people dream. I've never been able to remember my dreams, but you know, they, whoever they are, say that everybody dreams. So, you know, sure, I dream. Man, there was this guy I was with for a while back in Florida. Go figure. He had dreams. Well, I think they would call them like night terrors, a little more intense than nightmares. Fun relationship. No, not really. He was good until about midnight or so, and then, as you would expect, Cinderella turned into a fucking pumpkin. Saying, screaming at the walls, kicking, flailing, like committable behavior. I had no time for that shit, even if he was really hot. Anyway, so this one time, he did end up staying the night, and I mean, it was New Year's Eve, and we were trashed, and I couldn't, in my right mind, even though I was out of my mind, we both were, I couldn't let him drive, you know? So he crashed on the couch, and I stayed in my room. I locked the fucking door. I wasn't messing around. Like, dude needed to sober up, but I wasn't about to let any funny business happen. There were no screams that night. Not at first. And I remember it had to have been probably 5 in the morning, maybe 4:30, just like that. Crack your eyes open, you know you haven't slept enough, but like the sun's peeking through, just early dawn. And I could hear voices, not just his voice. I heard voices outside my door, his voice, and then another voice. I heard another voice. I know that I still had some shit in my system, but I heard someone respond to this guy. So I grabbed my baseball bat and I opened the door and he's there. And the first thing I see is fucking, it's like a potato, like a vegetable peeler. One of those wide ones, you know, and he's waving it all around. And I just remember very vividly like this nice little sheen of rust at the bottom. I don't know why I picture that so clearly, but I do. And his eyes are closed and his mouth is open, and really quietly, very quietly, he says, "The gnome-faced man, he says you're a snake. You need to shed your skin. And underneath, you're so beautiful." And then he like fell to his knees and grabbed my waist, like full on face and crotch, and says, "I told him you're already beautiful, that I don't need to peel off your face." I ghosted him, never fucking talked to him again, but I sure as hell kept tabs on that motherfucker. And what happened to his next girlfriend requires a much stiffer drink.
After getting my ass kicked, apparently my hand wasn't worth salvaging. Which wasn't my call, but seeing as I didn't wake up until after the matter, I didn't really have a say in it. It's not my preference, but I know they did the right thing, I guess. There wasn't enough of it left anyways, not enough pieces to save my hand, so I guess they just hacked what was there and offered me a prosthetic, which would have been kind of sweet, but the cool ones were all way too fucking expensive. Who needs it anyway? What happened happened. I can't hide behind it, so I'm like, okay, this stump is my scarlet letter for what I did. What we did. And then the dreams came. The crazy thing is, it was never the same. Never 100% the same dream. The hand collector approached me slowly. I mean, it took weeks of him just walking towards me. Up that ugly beach. That black water. It's like he was trying not to spook me. And finally, he's right up on me. No arms, just little nubs of bones from his shoulder sockets, wiggling around. And then he shows me this little burlap sack laying at his feet. Now it's laying at our feet. It opens up and this hand crawls out. It's my hand. I recognize it. It's mine. Of course I can tell that it's mine. It starts crawling up him. I can tell. It's his now. It's his. And then he whispers to me, "Thank you."
This is an excerpt from Lucid Dreaming, the Desert Sessions, a collection of essays and first-hand accounts published by Professor Andre Argento in 1998. This is from Chapter 8, Knife Church. I was being chased by the clown again. The rotten clown. His legs are spindly and gangrenous, partially chewed away, so he's always on his sled. The one with the squeaky wheels. It's dark, but we're in the alley again. We're always in the alley. Something about it looks different this time, though. I look up and there's no moon, there's no stars, but those brick walls up around the edges are turning into trees. The ground gets rough. There's no more pavement. It's mud up to my ankles, and the walls are all dead wood. The clown, Festering John, isn't that what you called him? He's stuck in the mud too. Maggots are dripping off of his diseased face like wet grease paint. He starts crawling after me, dragging those little baby legs behind him. So I keep running. Right up the steps. And I didn't see this building was there before I got to it. The trees stopped, and there it was, the church I used to go to with my family when I was a kid. I slam the door shut behind me, and I hold it closed, but then it isn't a door anymore. It's just a wall. And this isn't the church that I remember. It's someplace else entirely. It's still a church, but it's a dark one. Putrid. Decaying. The pews have all been torn up, and the floor is filled with knives, hundreds of knives. The handles jammed down into wet cracks in the floor, and the blades pointing straight up. 7 women are standing in a circle around the edge of this knife garden. They're naked, but clothed in fresh, red blood. Their faces are all cut open. They've got big, toothy grins from ear to ear. And they're flaying off little pieces of themselves and tossing them into the knife garden like coins into a wishing well. The women are dancing. They're flailing wildly and singing a tune that I can hear, but I can't quite register. Something about it paralyzes me. So I can't move when the women come for me. They grab me with cold, clammy hands. They lift me up and they toss me into the knife garden. And just before I hit, the floor splits open right down the middle. It opens up into a well of endless, inky black. And all those knives are now rows of teeth in a mouth. It eats me up, grinds me into paste between stone and metal, and swallows me down into the Thank you for listening to another episode of A Scary Home Companion. Find the show on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Or contact us directly at ascaryhomecompanion@gmail.com. If you'd like to help out the show, leave us a review. iTunes, Stitcher, wherever it is you listen. It's a big boost for the show. And for me personally. Guest voices this time around by the lovely and talented Buck Rogers, Dan Jopling, Ashley Webster, Jamie Lee Hensley, Savannah Hensley, Sean Gough, and Jeff Davidson. Now, some of these are new people that we haven't heard from before, but a few of them might be familiar. Do you know who was who? Scooch on over to the Patreon for the post-mortem analysis video where I break down all of the dreams, what they represent, who they were from, and what it may mean for future stories. All this and bonus material plus extra episodes. Check out the Patreon. This episode was produced and edited by Jeff Davidson. Featured music by AK'Chamel, the giver of illness, with the tune Death Was On You from the Moment of Birth. And Marrach with H. Stewart. 3 tunes, Skin Deep, Let the Night Tell, and Twinkle. And as always, Chelsea Oxendine with the theme music.